Carol involves ghost stories, tales, and myths, which appeals to a lot of people. A lot of the people might be able to relate to Scrooge because at times people forget what's really important in life. Even though at first Scrooge seems like a bitter old man, Dickens then reveals the backstory and we can see that anyone could become bitter and go down a bad path, but you can always change. I think that A Christmas Carol is a classic and everyone at some point should read it. There are a lot of layers to this book, like money doesn't buy happiness and bitterness will bring loneliness.
Where and when it is set. London, England during the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution. The history of the book is the end of the inhumane imprisonment for debts, capital punishment. There's a lot of selfishness and greed in the book and in the history. And the Victorian prison systems were like a major issue. The major issues that developed the themes, like the Christmas spirit, the people forgot what Christmas was supposed to be like, and which was due to greed and selfishness. A second theme was the criticism of the Victorian system. Dickens blames the huge class of the Victorian England on the selfishness of the rich and essentially the poor of the laws that kept down the underclass. And Scrooge is the symbol of the greedy Victorian rich, while the other people represent the working poor. And Dickens wrote the book to be a form of protest, like his personal experiences and the felt strong need to comment on the enormous gap between the rich and the poor.
Yeah. A Christmas Carol is unique in its own way. Dickens uses many techniques to create interest. Dickens is very descriptive of his settings. He gives industrial England its own creepy personality. Dickens creates an eerie feeling as Scrooge walks through the streets before he is visited by Marley's ghost. Dickens also uses well-developed dialogue throughout. Christmas Carol has been made into many plays and movies because of its well-developed dialogue. This gives directors a lot to work with. Scrooge himself is a very animated character. He frequently speaks in hyperboles. A Christmas Carol is a timeless classic, and because of Dickens' skills, will be read, watched, and seen throughout the world.
First major event is when Scrooge is visited by his former partner Marley in the form of a ghost. He warns him of what his fate could be and tells him that 3 ghosts will visit him the next few nights. The ghost of Christmas past appears. He shows him scenes from his past when he was a young boy. This triggers emotions for Scrooge. Then he is visited by the ghost of Christmas present. He shows current scenes and tells him that if he doesn't change, Tiny Tim will die and takes him to his tombstone. He is then visited by the ghost of Christmas yet to come. He shows Scrooge scenes in which people are discussing his death and no one seems to be saddened by it. Most are actually happy. Scrooge then comes to a realization of his fate and says he will change. Lastly, he makes amends with the people of his town and incorporates Christmas spirit into his everyday life. He also becomes like a second father to Tiny Tim.